I got such unique experiences in church, right? Like I told you, I lost my virginity in a menage with like at the pastor's house. Then he did a sermon and he was talking directly. He was talking directly at me and trying to like embarrass me and stuff within the church. I stepped out of the church.
Hey, bro, you can't just pass.
Let's start back over again, Mark.
You can't just pass over that, bro.
I talked about this before. When I was 13, 14, I had a menage at the pastor's house.
Oh, I thought you said with the
Not with the pastor. He got daughters. He got daughters.
No,
His daughter and her friend, they end up what the girl wrote it in a book. Her auntie found it, took it to the pastor. Then they had to have this big conference with my mom because, like I told you, I've been big since I was little. So I ain't grown since 12, 13. So grown man, it was trying to get me in trouble because how you know what I'm saying, how big I was. The girl aunt thought that, took it to the pastor. Then I had to long story short, I've had crazy experiences down to like when I spent a lot of time trying to disprove God to like the Christians in my family. Because all the research that Cookie is referencing, that Viz is referencing, the Crusades, that's like everything that you could think of. Is nobody who know more about the Bible than somebody trying to argue against it, right? I think that's more of a adequate statement for how people operate. And I was in that same metric. But I had experiences where my grandmother and them, so they'll tell me that they praying for you, and then random things that happen, and they'll go one way or the other. And I'm like, well, that could be coincidence. It could be God. I'm still at the point in my life trying to disprove it, though. I'm arguing with my aunties, I'm arguing with my grandfather, pastor. My other uncle called me the devil. You know what I'm saying? I got snakes and all type of stuff. They just going at me, right? And then I kind of just took a step back. And one of the things that helped me on the journey that I'm on right now is the red pill space. When I hear the men in the red pill space talk about women, and you try to argue with them to prove there's value outside the sex and they don't see it, it kind of really set in that that's what I was doing when I was trying to argue that God doesn't exist or exist. And I just really couldn't see it. And stepping back from that situation and observing it, like people staunchly believe this. There's no other value outside of sex for these women. So anybody that's saying that they see value, they will think that you're lying about that. And that's the same way I was approaching the people that was talking to me about religion. So just like juxtaposing those two things, like I said, I've been on a journey, just growing. Like I'm reading the Quran and working through this in my mind in real time. So I'm the last. I used to be religious gangbanger for real, but it was on the opposite side to disprove. Like a friend invited me to church. I had an incident where the pastor tried to make me say, like, you know, when you had the new people come in and they like stand up and say that you're here for the church. Mm-hmm. So I go to the church. I'm trying to do my friend a favor because I used to play taboo with them. They kept trying to get me to come. So I finally agreed. I go into church and the pastor do the new people stand up and raise your hand. I stood up. He like, no, stand back up, and tried to get me to as long as you accept Jesus Christ as your personal savior, and then you welcome in our church. And I was like, okay. And I sat back down. He like, do you accept him, brother? This man on the microphone. The other three people that stood up with me all said, yeah, they go to the front to get baptized. And I'm talking to him. I'm like, and I just, you know how you try and not answer and sit down? I try and not answer. He, stand back up, brother. Stand back up. I'm super tall, so I'm standing there hovering over them, and the dude got the microphone, and he proceeds to try and browbeat me. So now I'm arguing with the pastor in the middle of church, saying like, if Jesus is love and God is love, I believe in love, so I'm all for love. And he telling me, no, you got to accept Jesus as your Lord and Christ and personal Savior in order to get to the kingdom of heaven. And I'm like, bro, if I was a crackhead, my mama still love me. If I got religion wrong, God, power, and love is stronger than my mom, so he will still accept me. And what you're doing right now is just not right. We went back and forth for like 10 to 15 minutes. And then finally, He realized he wasn't going to be able to bully me to the front. I sat back down, and he spent the rest of that sermon preaching at me indirectly, trying to shame me through the crowd. Like, we got some sinners in the building. We going to save a soul that don't think they're going to be saved today. I'm just,
the Bible speaks on false prophets. There's going to be false prophets. There's going to be that will infiltrate, and people will follow them. What he was doing in every way, shape, and form is unacceptable. But again, there's false prophets out there, and there's a lot of them, especially now. I think also I understand your approach to trying to learn the Bible and other religions to decipher it, but to go into it with the mentality of I want to pick this apart to say how wrong it is.
Well, I was trying to prove it right, and then I realized it was no proving it right. So then I moved to the people that was telling me that they know for a fact, proving them to be liars, because there's no way that you could tell me something for a fact that you just believe. So, and then from there, I start, like I said, I'm on the journey right now. So I can't affirmatively sit here and gangbang with nobody, because I'm still learning about my relationship with God. I know I've always been in tune with God, you know, and I'm just trying to put the pieces together. I know I've always been connected to a source, though. Like, I just, under the denomination of a religion, Christianity or Islam or whatever, I can't gangbang with nobody, because I don't got enough. I can't. I had to be able to recite the Quran from forward to backwards, and the Bible both ways for me to argue it at this point in life, because I understand there's things that's out of my reach, and I may not have the full capacity to understand everything. So I'm just working through that. So people that religious gangbang, I understand where it comes from when you truly believe something. Because I was religious gangbanging to say that they were wrong. But observing me know something that I can't prove to somebody that I'm experiencing in the red pill space helped me get closer to God in a way. It's crazy how things work.
The beauty of it is that you don't have to prove it to anyone else. As long as you know it, then that's all that matters.
I was just about to say that. I was about to say, you know what, Marcus? As long as you feel and know that connection, there's nothing wrong with that.
That's what all of the scriptures teach.
Yeah.
You know, I'm believe me, I'm familiar. I just don't want to go into long detail. That story was too long as far as I'm concerned. And there's so many parts I left out there to be like, damn, that happened. That's crazy. Damn, that happened. That's crazy. But it's been a journey. It's been a journey. I will say it was an incident that that recently happened in the space where a young man's daughter was talking about she was dissatisfied with the fact that she was a young Black woman. And I found myself actually praying for her. And that's not that I ever would, you know what I'm saying? But there's nothing else I could do. I'm not in that person's life. I don't know his child. Only thing I could do is send her positive affirmations and love and hope God or somebody comes to help and rescue that young lady.
Go ahead, Shan.
I just wanted to bring some positivity to this conversation because I attend a very great church. And I actually feel good when I go to church. It just makes it's just something about it that makes, puts a smile on my face. It jump starts my week. And maybe it's just because I go to a great church. I don't just, there are tons of bad churches, right? And I've been to them, but it didn't stop me from trying to find the right church for me. And at this point, I found the right church for me. My pastor, listen, this man is the most God. He is that guy, right? Like when I say God, I mean, he tries to live right. Like he really puts his all into it. He's available for prayer every day of the week. He's there if you need him. He's just dedicated his life to it, and you can just tell, and he loves it. You know, it's his passion. And so I'm glad that I found that church. And I'm just, because I feel bad because you guys have all these experiences. I can say this: don't go to mega churches. People have this obsession with going to, because so many people are in the congregation. You know, most of those people are telling you what you want to hear. They're motivated.
Mhm.
They ain't even talking about the Bible. Like sometimes they talking about money and, you know, yeah. That's probably the problem right there. I go to a little small. He ain't never put his hand and pushed me back. So I haven't been traumatized by you, Bruiser. You know, now I've seen him put his hand on people and he'll say, pray for this person. But I've never seen the jerk back or anything of that nature. So I just wanted to say, you know, there are good churches out there. There are good pastors out there. And please remember, pastors are human. Nobody is perfect, period, right? We got to stop making people perfect, right? Just because they're good at what they do and they are human and they have sin, they sin as well. But we don't want one that's always sinning. You know what I'm saying? You know, we want one that's trying to do right. But I just wanted to say that there are some good. Like, don't just throw it all away. Just find one that works for you. And if maybe you don't like church, you maybe read the Bible. If you're going to do it that route, think, you know, go for it.
I feel like Nelson been holding in something that he want to say this entire conversation.
Nah, not really. It's a touchy subject. It's really difficult, and I think just for me, you know, where I'm at with my walking with God is when you hear people talk about things that don't align with what you believe and some of the things that you know to be true, it to a certain extent it breaks your heart, because you worry for that person's soul. Like I'm talking about for the people that actually pray and actually try to live their life according to how the Bible tells you to live your life and what God expects of us if we are to call ourselves Christians. I know not everybody calls himself that. So it's, you know, it's hard hearing that we got exposed to these churches that got so deep into these rituals and hit you on your forehead and expecting you to fall out, or speaking in other tongues and not understanding what it is, how to interpret it, what it really means. There's so much stuff that is taking away from the real message of the gospel, and that it all points to Jesus, and it all points to him taking, like, the thought that there would be somebody that loved us enough to die for all the crap that we did, past, present, and future, because we all deserve the same fate. So the thought that there was a God that loved us that much that would do that, and the only thing that he required from us was to believe in him, is, you know, like, there's no greater love than that, in my opinion.
You don't ever like struggle with wondering why did somebody have to die?
Yeah. Especially when you read the Bible and you learn and you hear about all the different, why does it always have to be blood sacrifices? Why what was the meaning of blood? And I don't know why, you know, God ordered the world that, you know, the life is in the blood, but is, you know, I just had to trust in, like, he knows things on a completely different level than I could ever know or even imagine. So, you know,
so I'm sorry, no,
go ahead.
So one of the things that like I used to argue with my aunt, I was like, if I take the body of Jesus into me, if I eat the cracker and I drink the blood, ain't that like a zombie? This almost seemed like the ritual itself seemed kind of, and this is not, I'm not saying, oh, shout out to Christianity. I'm asking some of the real stuff. it seemed extremely paganistic. And then I asked my grandfather one day, I'm like, you know how many of our ancestors was born in slavery and died in slavery that expected to be saved before they died? Why we got to have our heaven in heaven while the person is doing this to us, that's forcing this on us, got heaven on earth? Like certain things like that just plagued me. You know, they would eat away at me.
Yeah,
and
I
I
think
was
that's what we.
You really think they got heaven on earth? It really ain't all that green on the other side.
at one point it was greener than what we had.
Well, so it's all a symbolism. In taking in the body of Christ and his blood is simply a ritual, right? Every single thing that we do or that has meaning and power is a ritual. When you pray, that's a ritual. Conduct however it is that you conduct yourself, whatever it is that you believe in, it has power in it. It has as much power in it that you give it.
That's fair. And I understand the concept of the symbolism and what it's supposed to mean. But I'm saying when you step outside of, because so a lot of us receive religion before the age of reason, before we're able to actually ask critical thinking questions. And I questioned that too. Like, why would you implant an idea in me before I can think rationally? Because if it was legit like that, wouldn't you present the idea when I could think rationally and there's no way around it? I used to have so many questions.
But that's part of your values and things, because they like everything that your parents give you, like they teach you right from wrong, everything else, right? And it's all based on the Bible. Everything that you've learned as a child, you know, they're not going to say, all right, well, I'm not going to tell him that stealing is bad. I'm just going to wait till he realizes what's right and wrong. It's part of the parents' value system. So they would instill that into you. So that's the only way you know. And if you really believe in that faith, then you wouldn't give your children a choice at all to believing anything else.
Then my mother, who is.
Is there anything in the Bible you disagree with that it's telling you to do?
I think the confusion comes in from the interpretations that people spread. When you read the Bible in different parables, how it is that you take it personally, I believe, is what the message is. You could, I don't know if anyone else has done this, but you can read something and ingest it one way, and then 5 years later read the same exact thing and be like, damn, I ain't even noticed that. I ain't even think about that. However it is that the concept that you gather from it, I feel, is what that person should strive for, much rather than allowing for the pastor to tell you his interpretation of it. I think that's where it can become dangerous. One of the things for me, because I grew up Christian, I grew up Kojic, and one of the things for me that always got me was that they was like, you have to strive to be like Jesus, but you can never be like Jesus. It was like, wait, what? That's contradictory as hell. That don't even make sense. But when I understand the concept, but at the same time, I feel like that religion itself kind of puts you in a box to where, depending on your mindset, it'll either allow for you to stay like this, or it'll open you up to be, you know what I'm saying, what it is that we're supposed to be. So I think that all comes with that spiritual journey that you have in questioning, you know what I'm saying, what's there, so that you can gather a better understanding of it.
Go ahead, Cookie.
I'm a highly sensitive being, and I think my biggest it's not even an issue, because I don't have an issue with anything anybody does, but the historical content, it's fine. It's kind of like we're referencing the Bible as if it's the real one, and it's like the Amanda Seals version of the Bible right now. Like, if that makes sense, so we can connect it and bring that right back around to the opening topic. So for me, it's like I take it for a grain of salt and try to make as high of a connection spiritually, physically with my body, with God as I can. Like he said in the video, he said that God is bigger than your religion. He's bigger than all of this. And it's like trying to fly a 747 plane and survive, and somebody rewrote the directions manual 100 times over for me. So it doesn't, for me, make sense to live my life with the book that I know for a fact has been manipulated. First of all, for colonizers, and second of all, for control and money. So, what I could say to anybody that is seeking spirituality or Christianity, do you? I'm gonna do me, and just make sure whatever it is that you're trying to get from what you're reading, you try to get it from the original source. Because if you, all these new versions, King James, Old Testament, if the Bible's missing like 53 books from, and all the black people got taken out. It's too much for me to even go into, but um it's definitely a colonizer book. And I choose to just connect with God on a spiritual level. And that's my TED talk.
All right. Go ahead, Ruth.
We're in what we call the last days. A couple years ago, Christian people, they would call us crazy, talking about, things are not going to get bad, things are great. But now you're starting to see things that was in the Bible. Like, we're not surprised any of this stuff happened, because it's in the Bible. So when you're studying it, that's what you realize. I learned a long time ago that religion and relationship is totally different. Religion is a bunch of rules. So when you hear about the 10 Commandments, God already knew that you couldn't follow all of them. It's like impossible to follow them for the rest of your life, because, like Shan said, like, everybody's lying. So thou shalt not lie. We all break that. But God is the reason why they got those rules, is because they didn't want to have a real relationship with God. So it's very important that you have a relationship with him. And the deeper you go, the more you have discernment of what's real and what's not. So Marcus is on a great journey, because God will reveal to you exactly who he is if you ask him, if you're open. If you're closed-minded and you're like, nah, it's not for me, then you're not gonna really know how deep you could have went with it. But if you're open-minded and you're like, you know what, let me give it a chance, let me really take this seriously, then you're going to start seeing things. So people will be like, well, why do you go to church, or why you do this, or why you participate? The deeper I got into, I used to be somebody that stayed in the back, like just sit in the back of the church, but I got more involved. I volunteer. And what I realized is the more that I do that, the more God opened doors in my life. So it's not, some people will go, they listen, they never open their Bible, they never learn anything. They would be the one to flip you off in the parking lot. And some people really try to understand what the preacher is saying, especially if you have a good one that really is trying to follow the word. And you will start to see, when I went to my church, my bishop said everything that I went through that week. She said week after week after week. And so everybody felt that way that was listening. And I'm like, well, that's only the Holy Spirit that could have something said generally, but it hits everybody totally different. So those are the kind of experiences that you have when you're in the church. So it's not like we're just believing some fake stuff. It's like it happens for real. And it's not, when you keep writing it off as a coincidence, like God will do certain things. Like just this week, the last 48 hours, God made me say something. I had to open my mouth, say what I was going through. And then he opened up this door, that door, that door. But if I didn't open my mouth, then the person wouldn't have heard the testimony. So I don't really tell my business, but the people closest to me, they really be like, yo, a lot of good stuff always happening to you. Or, one day it looked real bad, and then the next day it looks totally different, a 180. So that's the kind of things that we experience as Christians. That's why we continue to do what we do.
God will do that with or without the Bible, or with or without a church, if you really connect it.